14 Teachings of the Buddha, Part 3. Teaching 9, Nourishing Aspiration. The ninth teaching. The greatest bankruptcy in a human life is despair. Despair can be defined as a genuine hope that fails to achieve fulfillment. When we lose hope A, we can rebuild hope B or C, but a person in despair has completely lost all hope. Before someone who is despairing, there remains only an abyss, a deep chasm, and the darkness of suffering, dead ends, and failure. They give up, surrender, and almost no longer have the capacity to rise up in life. That is the greatest bankruptcy among all sincere efforts. When speaking of hope, we can contemplate it through the image of a donkey. A donkey is an animal with strength, but its resolve and direction to move forward are not firmly established. Without a skilled guide, a donkey cannot carry luggage to the place its owner wants to reach. So the owner devised a plan. He placed a bundle of fragrant rice about 2 inches in front of the donkey's muzzle. When the donkey smelled the aroma of the rice carried back by the opposing wind, its mouth would release digestive juices, and in its mind an intention would arise, wishing to eat that bundle of rice. In this way, the donkey had to step forward, step by step, gradually faster, determined to shorten the distance to the bundle so that it would quickly become its own. It went from 1 hour to the next. That distance still did not shrink, yet the physical distance from the starting point to the destination gradually decreased. In this way, the owner's wish was fulfilled. In this philosophical story, we see 2 agents, the human being and the donkey. The donkey's going and arriving are determined by the human agent, and the lure is the bundle of fragrant rice. Because the donkey wants to eat the rice, it must walk, and thanks to its movement, the owner's goal is accomplished. Meanwhile, the donkey still does not get to eat the bundle of rice. Of course, after reaching the destination, the donkey will be rewarded with a gift far greater than that bundle of rice. This story teaches us a lesson. A genuine hope can become a source of motivation that pushes us forward, helping us understand that the distance between dreams and reality is both very near and very far. Even if we keep walking and still do not arrive, we must continue to make effort. Thanks to such hopes, every action and every step forward becomes tireless. That is the power that helps us succeed. To become a doctor, aspiration must make up 30% or more, and to become a Buddhist practitioner, it is the same. Aspiration comes first, and results will follow afterward. The question is how we nourish this aspiration. In this situation, the owner's awareness can be regarded as guiding wisdom. Simply by placing the donkey's awareness onto the track of movement and rewarding it with a bundle of rice, the donkey will do what the owner wants. In Buddhism, this is called praising merit. Many Buddhist practitioners, when making offerings, say when the temple sends a merit receipt, "I practice selflessness, so please do not send this kind of praise." To understand it that way is a one-sided understanding. Good deeds should be praised. We do not demand praise from anyone, but when someone offers praise, we should receive it with deep respect. In the Amitabha Sutra, Shakyamuni Buddha is praised by the Buddhas of the 10 directions, and Amitabha Buddha is also praised by Shakyamuni Buddha. They teach us not to be preoccupied with praise or blame. Yet genuine praise is an art that acknowledges the value of moral and spiritual contributions, so that people may confidently use and follow those contributions. Therefore, the Buddhas still praise one another. As disciples of the Buddha, we should learn from this example. Praising merit, first, allows us to gain the merit of rejoicing in others' goodness. Next is the merit of encouragement, and finally, it gives the one being praised a great hope. From there, they can overcome hardships, trials, and obstacles to succeed. As human beings, everyone needs sincere vows and aspirations. For example, practitioners of the Pure Land tradition are trained to plant faith in themselves, faith in cause and effect, in their potential, and in success. Then they are guided in sincere vows, wishing for all sentient beings, so that their capacity of heart becomes as vast as the universe. With great aspiration, we can accomplish difficult tasks. A vow is the source of energy that leads us into action and practice. Therefore, in the Pure Land path of practice, which includes faith, vow, and practice, the second factor, vow, determines success. If there is faith but no great aspiration, that faith becomes confined within limits. If one wishes to practice and engage but does not make great vows, one cannot complete the work and may give up halfway. Great aspiration, when supported by committed action, is no longer merely a dream but becomes reality. Meanwhile, those who live in despair may arise from ideas that have no grounding in cause and effect. They wish for many things, yet they do very little. It is like a person sitting under a tree, hoping that rabbits will accidentally crash their heads into the trunk, die, and provide meat to eat. That hope might succeed once in a long while, but to treat such hoping as a way to live will lead to despair and the loss of all direction. A person in despair may be so because they dream too much but act without method. Then misfortunes come one after another like a chain of paradoxical events, as if one has just used both hands to struggle upright and is immediately knocked down a second time. One clings to the trunk of a tree to force oneself to stand, only to fall a third time. One manages to move a few steps forward, then is struck down again, forced to crawl inch by inch, little by little, yet still unable to rise in life. From there, despair becomes an obsession that torments those who have aspirations but do not succeed. To avoid the bankruptcy of despair, a Buddhist practitioner must learn from the Buddha's example through the image of 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes, the manifestation of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. Each hand symbolizes an action. We may say that we love life, love our relatives, and show filial respect to our parents. But when life, our loved ones, and our parents are in need of our help, we turn away and ignore them, inventing many reasons that we are this or that, lacking this or that, not yet having the conditions to carry it out, and so on. Then our aspiration is merely an empty promise with no beneficial value. In Buddhism, a vow must be expressed through action, envisioned as a hand. A hand of compassion, if it lacks guidance, can fall into sentimentality. Parents who love their children without method can cause their children to become spoiled rather than successful. Therefore, each hand must have an eye, a symbol of illumination and guidance that helps sentient beings overcome hardship and return to a realm of peace. Thus, people need wisdom to lead the way. Do not let mere hope dominate and control you, or in the end you will accomplish nothing. To avoid despair, the Buddha taught that all sincere efforts need time to bear fruit. Some people are impatient. They want to invest in the morning and have results by the afternoon to live on. They want to sow today and achieve tomorrow so they can enjoy it. Therefore, when results have not yet arrived, when the fruit has not yet ripened, they become discouraged and disappointed. They conclude that there is no karmic law of wholesome and unwholesome actions, that the outcome for those who do good is truly tragic, and from there they lose all confidence in the Buddha's teaching. That is sad and pitiable. Imagine that accumulating blessings is like opening an account in a bank. The account is opened on a 12-month term. If in the 12th month you do not withdraw, that does not mean the money is lost. The principal and the interest remain intact, and interest can continue to be calculated beyond the term. Likewise, when we do wholesome deeds and cultivate merit and blessings but the results have not yet manifested, we should be glad because that savings remains whole. At some point when we need to use it, we can withdraw it. Instead of sadness, disappointment, and discouragement that lead to despair, we should think in this way. Then joy, smiles, and gladness will be present. At the end of 2007, there was a woman of about 28 years old, a civil engineer, who fell into a state of despair. She attempted suicide 6 times and still did not die. Her aunt was a Buddhist practitioner at Nkwang Pagoda. Seeing her niece in such a miserable condition, she brought her to Jiak No Pagoda to meet us, hoping the niece could cast off despair. I asked why she had attempted suicide 6 times. She replied, "When I was still in my hometown, I loved a young man, but my family did not support it. I was so trapped that I tried to take my own life, but I did not die. The second time, when I took the university entrance exam, my parents forced me to choose medicine so that later I could be a doctor and have a future, but I liked civil engineering. I submitted my application to test into civil engineering and I passed, but my parents disagreed and put enormous pressure on me. I was so discouraged that I tried to kill myself a second time. Fortunately, people discovered me and rushed me to emergency care. In the end, my family agreed to let me go to the city to study civil engineering. During 4 years as a student, I attempted suicide 3 more times. Whenever any friend criticized or reproached me, I felt utterly desperate. I thought, why does so much misfortune gather around me? None of my friends or relatives are like me, so I did not want to live and I took medicine to die. But when I took it, my friends discovered me and brought me to the hospital, so in the end I did not die. The sixth time, I loved a construction contractor. I was an engineer who signed a contract to supervise a project. This contractor was older than my father by a few years. When I was desperate and had no money to pay rent in Saigon, he appeared like a rescuer and threw me a life buoy. Eventually love began to bloom, and I felt very happy. But after a few months, his wife discovered it and forced me to leave her husband. I was so desperate that I hanged myself from the electric fan in my room at the Polytechnic University to commit suicide. At that time the power was out, so workers ran into each room to check where the electrical problem was. When they entered my room, they found that I had just jumped from the chair only a few seconds earlier. They pulled me down and got me to the hospital in time, so I lived again. From that sixth attempt onward, the aunt worried day and night and stayed by her side at all times. When the niece slept, the aunt slept. When the niece woke, the aunt woke. When the niece went to the back of the house, the aunt followed to keep watch. When the niece went to the front, the aunt had to accompany her as well. After months of such hardship, the aunt's face became terribly pale and exhausted. Finally, she asked us for help. We analyzed for the young woman the nature of life, which is full of injustices, grievances, and painful entanglements. Many things we want cannot be obtained because they are governed by the law of cause and effect. When conditions have not yet come together, results cannot arise. Therefore, instead of sorrow and despair, we should rejoice, renew ourselves, and make a second effort. If we still cannot complete it, we should strive a third time, a fourth time, and so on, until we achieve results. No great person succeeds on the first try. Geniuses and talented people are the same. The main thing is perseverance. The adversities she faced were actually very small compared to those of others, but because she had the habit of exaggerating, overemphasizing, and idolizing them, the problems became more tense, tangled, complicated, and exhausting. She thought that death was the best solution to escape the current impasse, but that is a mistaken way of thinking. If we do not make the effort to resolve our present difficulties, they will continue to follow us into the future, or even into the next life. While a Buddhist practitioner is still healthy and still has sufficient inner strength, when painful results come as an inevitable law from past lives, we should gladly accept them in order to dissolve karma. Later we can become a person who is unburdened, no longer in debt, no longer wronged, no longer obstructed by adverse conditions, and no longer trapped in dead ends. We guided her to practice contemplation in this way. Look at the sky to forget the darkness. Look at the sunlight to forget the fire of the firefly. Look at the lion to forget the sheep. Look at the vast ocean to forget each single drop of water. Many people keep looking at small obstacles as if they were huge, looking at a grain of sand as if it were a boulder. When problems are like a small stone, they imagine them as a mountain. When a situation is already a mountain, they imagine it as the Truong Sun Range, the Great Wall, or Mount Sumru. In this way, what is not worth making big becomes exaggerated. From there, repeated failures quickly lead to despair. We quickly lose all faith in our ability to be reborn into happiness, and in our own ability to keep walking forward. The life of a person in despair is like someone who has already died, vacant and dazed, merely seeking safety, stuck and blocked, unwilling to strive, doing nothing at all, only waiting for the day of death, letting fate drift like a water hyacinth floating on a river. The tide rises and falls. Sometimes it runs aground. Sometimes it is pushed to the shore. Sometimes it drifts aimlessly with no intention or direction. This is an enormous bankruptcy for all the merit and all the undertakings we are engaging in and pursuing. To break despair, we must acknowledge that the nature of this life is relative. If there is anything absolute in society, that absolute is precisely relativity. In Buddhist terms, relativity means dependent conditions. When this exists, it becomes the premise for that to exist. When this does not exist, it provides the basis for that not to exist. When this arises, it creates the conditions for that to arise. When this ceases, it creates the conditions for that to disappear. Understanding this, we should not idolize people. We should not overvalue any problem, but see everything that happens as a wind passing through a bamboo grove, the bamboo rustling, rustling. When the wind stops, all sounds vanish. Each rustling sound may be good or bad. If we do not store them, the mind becomes peaceful. In that way, even in hardship amid this life, we can remain steady like a three-legged stand. A person who can live like this can wave goodbye forever to their own despair. A certain elderly woman said, "Every month my children and grandchildren send me money to do charity and make offerings to temples. Then why do you still complain of suffering?" The old woman sat down and sighed, saying, "Venerable sir, how could I not suffer? Every day I have to drink bitter Chinese herbal medicine. When the Chinese medicine is finished, there is Vietnamese herbal medicine, then family remedies. Everything is pitch black and so bitter. Venerable sir, what suffering could be greater than that? Living beyond 90 is a great blessing, not something anyone can obtain simply by wanting it. It is the result of planting seeds of kindness, respecting life, protecting peace, loving animals, protecting the ecological environment, and so on, over many lives. In addition, it must be combined with proper rest, eating, work, recreation, and healthy daily living, always in a state of balance and equilibrium, not allowing the mind to be strained by work, and not letting adverse conditions and trials shake one's stability. Because this person's energy is not depleted, health is ensured. If one is wealthy but sick, then all the money one has earned is spent on medicine and hospital bills. Abroad, most people buy health insurance because medical service costs are very high. A typical monthly salary is about $2,000 to $3,000. If someone becomes mildly ill and goes to the hospital, staying for about 2 days, paying around $10,000 is a common matter. If one works an entire lifetime, saving carefully, yet refuses to buy insurance, one can only fall into debt. Even if one is born again for another life, the debt still may not be repaid. We knew a male Buddhist practitioner of about 35 years old. He was very hardworking, yet he still lied to the state that he was unemployed in order to work a second shift and receive unemployment benefits. In a single month, he had as much as Teaching 10. To have health is to have everything. The 10th teaching. The greatest asset in a human life is health. In some prayer sheets, banners, or calligraphic sayings, certain versions add the word wisdom next to the word health, with the two words separated by a comma or a dash. We once had the chance to check the original text from the Shaolin Temple of Mount Song in China, and we found that in the 10th aphorism there is no word wisdom, only health. This saying originates from the Dhammapada. Health is the greatest asset because many people live lives of wealth and luxury, with abundant material means and conveniences, yet they are still unhappy because they lack health. At Jiak No Pagoda, there is a Buddhist woman who is now 92 years old. In 2002, when we returned after 8 years of studying in India, we met her and she lamented, "I suffer so much, Venerable. I do not want to live at all." I asked, "Why are you so sad and complaining like this? Are your children filial to you?" She replied, "My child is already 70 this year. I have grandchildren and great-grandchildren, for generations of descendants. Everyone has a job. They all have income sources. Every month my children and grandchildren send me money to do charity and make offerings to temples." I asked, "Then why do you still complain of suffering?" The old woman sat down, sighed, and said, "Venerable, how could I not suffer? Every day I have to drink Chinese herbal medicine that is terribly bitter. When that is finished, there is Vietnamese herbal medicine, then family remedies. They are all pitch black and so bitter. Venerable, what suffering could be greater than that? To live beyond 90 is a great blessing. Not everyone can have it, even if they wish. It is the result of planting seeds of kindness, respecting life, protecting peace, loving animals, protecting the ecological environment, and so on, over many lifetimes. In addition, it must be combined with proper rest, eating, work, recreation, and healthy daily living, always in a state of balance and equilibrium, not allowing the mind to be strained by work, and not letting adverse conditions and trials shake one's stability. Because this person's energy is not depleted, health is ensured. If one is wealthy but sick, then all the money one has earned is spent on medicine and hospital bills. Abroad, Most people buy health insurance because medical service costs are very high. A typical monthly salary is about $2,000 to $3,000 US. If someone becomes mildly ill and goes to the hospital, staying for about 2 days, paying around $10,000 is a common matter. If one works an entire lifetime, saving carefully, yet refuses to buy insurance, one can only fall into debt. Even if one is born again for another life, the debt still may not be repaid. We knew a male Buddhist practitioner of about 35 years old. He was very hardworking, but he still lied to the state that he was unemployed in order to work a second shift and receive unemployment benefits. With 3 sources of income, in a very short time, he paid off half of the money for a house, and he was very happy. The first time we met him, we advised him not to live that way. Health is what matters. If you struggle too much, then all 12 zodiac animals become the ox. People often joke with each other, saying that if you are born here, no matter how wealthy your family is, you are still an ox, working relentlessly all day long. Because the house was about 1,000 square meters, and there were only 2 people, just cleaning, maintaining hygiene, and taking care of all the grass, trees, and ornamental flowers in the front yard and backyard would consume the entire day. Not to mention 8 hours working at the office and 2 hours commuting. Of the remaining 14 hours, 8 hours are for sleep, and 6 hours are for family life, eating, washing clothes, watching television, and so on. The next morning you continue the same routine, working relentlessly all day. If one keeps plowing like that, some people develop mental illness from extreme stress. Life in the West is very difficult to maintain the same peace as life in the East, including Vietnam, even though we may be somewhat poorer in economic and material conditions. Besides the money he earned from 3 income sources, he was so miserly that he refused to buy health insurance. Once, while working a second shift, due to carelessness his hand was pulled into a rolling machine and several fingers were cut off. When he went to the hospital, because he had no insurance, he had to pay $40,000, and his hand still was not fully functional. After discharge, he had to spend money to continue treatment, spending about $20,000 more, a total of $60,000. Meanwhile, buying insurance would have cost only about $100 per month, only a little over $1,000 per year, and it would have been far more economical. In the West, everyone must buy insurance. Houses also must be insured, including theft insurance, fire insurance, and so on. If someone who hates you sets your house on fire, the home you have saved for over decades can be reduced to nothing. Such things happen frequently in Western countries. But if you buy insurance, the insurance agency will take responsibility. Property insurance is the same. Therefore, abroad, insurance expenses can take up nearly 30% of the finances one creates. If you cannot integrate into this new collective reality, then when an accident happens you can lose everything, suffer, and fall into despair. Or if you are healthy and then your health suddenly fails, it can feel as if you have nothing left, leading to extremely serious consequences. After that, it can take many years to rebuild your livelihood. In the Amitabha Sutra, the Buddha teaches us a very simple art of living to maintain health. After eating, practice walking meditation, meaning that after a meal you walk calmly step by step. If, after eating, you lie down to sleep or sit still, it is easy to develop obesity, high blood fat, fatty liver, cardiovascular diseases, joint and bone pain, and many illnesses related to the stomach, kidneys, and liver. Practitioners of the Pure Land tradition, no matter how busy they are, still try to practice walking meditation after finishing a meal, walking in meditation, walking while reciting the Buddha's name, in peace, happiness, and ease. This supports us greatly. Each time, walking for about 20 to 30 minutes may seem like a loss of time, but it is very necessary. It not only replaces the habit of exercising for health, but also brings blessings and cultivates spiritual practice. If one can do this, women do not need to go to beauty fitness centers to become attractive, and men do not need to go to bodybuilding gyms to maintain strength. Walking meditation after lunch and dinner also helps us attain robust health. Many Buddhist practitioners, after encountering the Dharma, enthusiastically make a vow to become lifelong vegetarians. Their mistake is that they eat in an overly austere way, almost as if their meals contain nothing, only soy sauce, fermented tofu, vegetables, and a few bowls of soup, so simple and sparse. They may have money and sufficient conditions and lack nothing, but they are used to frugal eating. So after maintaining it for 10 or 20 years, they often develop osteoporosis, physical weakness, leading to nervous exhaustion. The nature of vegetarian eating is very good because it supports health and helps prevent serious illnesses. In the West, supermarkets and markets mostly sell vegetarian foods, so it is very easy to buy vegetarian products. They set aside a small corner specifically for vegetarian foods. Meanwhile, Buddhism has been present in Vietnam for nearly 2,000 years, yet finding a vegetarian restaurant is not easy. This shows that the trend of eating vegetarian to maintain longevity and health is becoming a practical need. For a Buddhist vegetarian, besides the factor of health, it also helps avoid illnesses caused by consuming fatty meats. We need to further develop compassion. This is the foundation, the most important core that allows us to have health and long life. Without health, we will fall into a state of the will is there, but the strength does not follow, wanting very much yet being able to do very little, becoming tired after doing only a small amount, and having to lie down to rest. Therefore, when we are alive and have longevity, we have the conditions to carry out our noble aspiration throughout our entire life, without interruption. If we live only to about 60 and then die, then after 60 we cannot do anything anymore. We have to begin again, first as a fetus, then as a child who must be guided, loved, nurtured, and cared for by parents. We lose the next 20 years before we can continue our mission. In Vietnam, it is common for venerable abbots and great monks to live into their 80s and 90s. Because they live long, their path of serving the Buddha's work can proceed smoothly. If one becomes a bhikkhu at 20 and lives to 90, then for 70 years the path of teaching and spreading the Dharma continues without interruption, creating spiritual confidence like a broad, cool Bodhi tree canopy that shelters and protects the silent virtue for generations of students. Those who are able to inherit this path are blessed with great good fortune. Grandparents, ancestors, and parents who live long are also a blessing for their descendants. Therefore, when we grow old, we should learn to let go. Do not allow worries to cling to the mind, because health will be lost along with them. In 2006, we gave a Dharma talk in a city near San Francisco. That day, on the occasion of celebrating an elderly woman's 80th birthday, we taught on the topic, Transforming Consciousness, to guide all of her children and grandchildren, who had been reunited in the United States for about a year or less, so that they could come to understand the Dharma. After the talk, the family invited us to visit her at home. When we entered, we saw her holding a broom and sweeping the house. Then she put down the broom to wipe tables and clean chairs. From time to time, she placed a chair and stood on it to wipe an old cabinet that had been brought from Vietnam. Her children and grandchildren were very distressed and told her to rest and not work, because the family already had a helper for everything. Now that she was old, they said she should focus on convalescence. If she slipped and fell, it would cause suffering for her children and grandchildren and suffering for herself. But the habit of many elderly people is that they do not want to let go. They have done so much throughout life that if they suddenly stop being active, they feel empty and lonely. It makes them feel that they are growing old and losing their ability to work, no longer able to struggle as they once did. Yet in old age they should be resting so the mind can be at peace. Many elderly people continue to work. Even if their health is good, small work-related accidents and minor mishaps can occur and reduce longevity, confining them to a bed or a wheelchair because of sudden illness, stroke, or injury. Therefore, we must practice so that from the age of 70 onward we learn to let go, not worrying too much about family matters or about the jobs and livelihoods of our children and grandchildren in a way that wears down our health. Many old men and women worry not only for their children's generation, but also for grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Spending an entire lifetime serving 3 or 4 generations of children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren is extremely exhausting. If one child comes home a little late, they ask questions. If a child works far away, they wait and worry all day. This does not solve anything, and it makes health decline day by day. Therefore, the elderly can rely on the holy names of Amitabha Buddha and Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva so that the mind can be at peace, and through that health is protected. After eating, practice walking meditation. Together with reciting the name of Amitabha Buddha, is a very basic art that can help us protect health. Older people who find it inconvenient to go outside and who may easily slip and fall when walking back and forth can use a walking stick to walk from the backyard to the front yard. If this habit can be practiced, it is also an art of protecting health. Translations that add the word wisdom are incorrect. The original text in the Buddha's teaching says, "The most precious asset of human beings is health. Even if one's property or family collapses, with effort one can rebuild and succeed again." The Buddha also often said, especially in the Bequeathed Teaching Sutra, only wisdom is the true vocation, meaning that wisdom is one's life work, not that wisdom is one's asset. The asset must be health, because it helps us endure and persevere, and it can even enable us to accomplish difficult tasks. Teaching 11. Love is a binding rope. The 11th teaching, the greatest debt in a human life is emotional attachment. In Vietnamese, the phrase tin cam has many meanings, both good and bad. In this context, tin cam does not mean social affection in society between relatives and relatives, strangers and strangers, or neighborhood solidarity. It refers to clinging attachment, lingering reluctance, and a psychology that cannot let go, so one becomes entangled in countless needless troubles. Many forms of worry are illnesses rooted in emotional psychology. A mother often has the habit of worrying for her child from childhood. When the child grows up, the mother still cannot feel at ease, worrying near and far, inside and out, day and night. There are many matters that only require 2 hours of effort to complete, yet a person afflicted by worry will worry for 2 days, even 20 days, 2 months, and so on. After the old matter has been worried over, when one should be able to let it go and do new work, memories and lingering anxiety still weigh on the heart. This causes us to waste a great deal of present energy on things that lead nowhere. Therefore, we must practice transforming our emotions, not clinging or lingering, so that while we are alive we can have peace and joy, and only then, at death, can we transcend. Training emotions is creating emotional balance. The flow of human emotion has 2 tendencies, happiness and suffering. Toward happy experiences, we tend to hold tightly and want to keep them forever. This is called greed. Toward unhappy experiences, we want to resist, eliminate, and push them away. In the end, we live with 2 reactions, either greed or anger. Clinging with delight and trying to possess it belongs to greed. Resisting, opposing, eliminating, and trying to destroy it belongs to anger. Wherever these 2 mental factors appear, delusion simultaneously exists and grows. Greed, anger, and delusion are the 3 legs of suffering, an obsession that makes it difficult for us to be peaceful and happy. People who live too heavily in emotion, when they should decide, instead hesitate, wavering in a dilemma. In the end, the opportunity is gone, and failure continues without end. To transform emotional attachment, the Buddha taught that we must apply faith in cause and effect in order to decisively escape unhappy conditions. A couple in their 50s came to see us in great distress. The wife had 5 houses in Saigon, and in addition, a great deal of land in other provinces. They had 2 children. One was preparing to marry, and the other already had a family and 2 children. The house they lived in had 5 floors. They allocated 1 floor to each child, with complete facilities. Even so, the children did not feel happy. The eldest son demanded that his parents give him an entire house outright. The mother said, "Wait until your father and I die, and we will leave a will for you. That is not too late. For now, you should live with us so we can be happy together. If you live in your own house, who will your parents live with?" But he refused to live together. In the end, he would not even look at them, and she suffered greatly. When we met her again at Xe Loi Pagoda, we asked her to answer honestly so we could help her. "Do you truly love your 2 children?" She said, "If I do not love my children, then whom would I love?" That was good. "Do you truly intend to hand your inheritance to your children when you die?" She said, "That is inevitable. If I do not make a will to give it to my children, then to whom would I give it? Unless I had no children, only then would I give it to grandchildren." "Then that is very good," I replied. "You have just affirmed that you love your 2 children very much, and you have the intention, and in reality you have already made a will to transfer that property to them. The remaining issue now is time. The second issue is that you are not yet at ease giving your children, while they are still too young, not yet 30, a full inheritance such as an independent house, because they may indulge in pleasure and fail to see the hardships and contributions of their parents in the past, and from there they may squander the estate. That is your worry, is it not? She said, exactly. We asked her to be at ease, because her worrying would not solve anything. It is not because she worries that the house will not be lost, nor is it because she does not worry that the house will remain unchanged. Whether it is lost or not depends on conditions and causes. Now that they have a full inheritance and abundant livelihood, with ample houses and property, if they intend to give it, then simply give it, and the children will be grateful. Otherwise, the children may think the parents are stingy and unwilling to give, and from there develop unfilial attitudes, which is also of no benefit. Even if they live under the same roof, if the children will not look at the parents, and the parents resentfully accuse them of being unfilial and begin to scold them, in the end the whole family is unhappy and all joy is lost. We advised her, within 1 week, divide the inheritance between your 2 children. She did so. 1 month later, she called to thank us, saying our advice was correct. Now my son, who already has a family, comes to visit us every week, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times, bringing his wife and children. The child who is preparing to get engaged brings his girlfriend home. They are deeply grateful. In this way, the house was used for its proper purpose, and the filial respect of the children was fully expressed toward their parents. Through this story, we want to say, many parents save wealth and try to hold on tightly to the ancestral estate, such as land and houses. Seeing that their children's temperament tends toward indulgence, they do not feel at ease handing over the inheritance. For that reason, when making a will, we would like to warn that it can be very difficult to attain liberation after death. This is because one's mind is constantly turned toward that will, still not at ease, not knowing whether relatives and descendants will follow it and carry out one's wishes from when one was alive. If such a mind arises, misfortune can come, because one will not be willing to depart, but will keep lingering around the house, watching to see how far the will has been carried out. Therefore, as a Buddhist practitioner, one should settle and balance everything before passing away. If, for some delicate or awkward reason, we cannot divide the inheritance while still healthy, then after the will is signed we must let go. Do not keep thinking that children and grandchildren must do this or that. And if someone does not do it, then we become sad, angry, resentful, or irritated, because such thoughts and imaginings become extremely exhausting. The reason we cannot be decisive in settling matters is that the ropes of emotion push us into hesitation. Therefore, the best approach is to fulfill our duties and responsibilities completely and then be decisive. This is a person who understands cause and effect, a person who lives the spirit of the wise, and therefore can see far and decide with breadth. Whatever they decide, they bring it to success. After deciding, one should not regret, not become discouraged, not despair, and not cling to craving. Whatever results are achieved, be temporarily content with that, because wanting more will not make it possible. Living this way does not mean surrendering to fate. Causes and supporting conditions produce results. When the causes and conditions are like this, the outcome can only be that much. Therefore, instead of sadness and discouragement, we should be content. Then the problem will be untied, it will become clear, and it will open up. Those who live heavily in emotion will suffer, unable to eat well or sleep peacefully because their feelings are so intense. They are often very sensitive. When they go outside and someone speaks indirectly, perhaps mentioning Mr. A or Mr. B, they feel as if it is aimed at them, as if others are implying something or speaking badly about them. And then they return home in suffering, eating without appetite, sleeping without peace, tossing and turning with troubled dreams. A person who can repay and end the debt of emotional attachment becomes light, practices diligently, and can be liberated from the cycle of birth and death. Many people in marriage relationships often quarrel, lacking harmony. The moral character and way of life of the two can be as different as heaven and earth. When apart they feel sad, but when together they suffer. After divorcing for a time, they marry again, and so life remains unsettled and repetitive. Many people still know that this is an emotional debt because they like sweetness, deliciousness, rich flavors. Whoever says what pleases them, they like and support. In reality, this is turning them into a slave, because they are being led by the nose and manipulated by honeyed words that can kill. Therefore, a person who transcends emotional attachment lives by reason. What needs to be done, they do. What does not need to be done, they do not do. To live like this is to be moving towards self-awakening, to be a mindful and awakened person. A Buddhist practitioner should cultivate the habit of behaving in this way in order to have peace. Teaching 12. Tolerance and Magnanimity. The 12th teaching, the greatest gift in a human life is tolerance. Tolerance is a magnanimous attitude. A magnanimous person is a person with the conduct of a bodhisattva. It is not merely diplomacy, because all responses arise from a heart of understanding and selfless altruism. We do not cling to any harsh words or bad actions of others. If someone, after recognizing their mistakes, comes to apologize and seek reconciliation, we should gladly accept and regard it as if we have never seen the grievances or knots of the past, so that they are not pushed into a corner and forced to resist with the attitude of someone who has nothing left to lose. A tolerant and magnanimous person can see the potential in others, always creates conditions to support them, and thinks, when the child surpasses the father, the family is blessed. Those who work under us, younger colleagues and associates, if someone has talent, we should create opportunities for them to contribute. Do not fear that if we give this person a role or a position, our influence and presence will be overshadowed. Whoever thinks that way is stingy with knowledge and opportunity, and the consequences in this life and the next can be very harmful. Supporting the future generation will give us the opportunity to do more important work. Such an attitude is called generosity. Northern Mahayana temples often enshrine a statue of Maitreya Buddha. What is special about him is a very joyful smile and a very large belly. Why does Maitreya Buddha have a big belly? In the scriptures describing Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all are said to have 32 major marks and 80 minor features, and among them there is no mark or feature of a big belly. Women are expected to have a slender waist, and for men it is a sturdy, well-proportioned build. So why does Maitreya Buddha have a big belly? It is because the image of Maitreya Buddha was influenced by Chinese culture. The Chinese believe that a big belly signifies prosperity. From that comes an idea: whoever is generous and has a good heart has a big belly. Therefore, people often take that as a standard when arranging marriages. This view is also fully compatible with Indian culture. There, a woman who is too slender may have difficulty marrying because people think she lacks blessings, and they fear that if they marry her, the children born will lose good fortune. That is why Indian women often have a fuller figure than women in other countries. We should not imitate Maitreya Buddha's big belly in outward appearance, but in the heart. To have a joyful and generous heart, we must have a bright smile, a flexible way of relating, an easy and relaxed attitude, a free and unburdened presence, not clinging, not holding on to sadness and pain. With such joy, we will have happiness and magnanimity. These two support each other greatly. Once we visited patients at the Tai Hoa Oncology Hospital, a place where the poet Han Mak too once went for treatment. We felt great joy when we saw a small house being used as a Buddhist shrine. Inside it enshrined Maitreya Buddha, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, and the newborn Buddha. The Buddhist devotees there all wore lay robes and welcomed us with smiles. We shared with them a short Dharma talk on the art of preserving health while ill, and we asked them to practice each day so that they could have a smile and find joy. Only then can the mind remain cheerful, peaceful, and happy. Illness comes to human beings as a law, not only to old age. Many young people die early, and if they do not die, they may carry disability for life like an invalid. If we have joy, uplifted spirit, and great aspiration, we can still build a career and achieve success in life. The key is that we recognize the potential and value in our own contributions. With a smile, we can do difficult things. To cultivate a generous heart, we should often contemplate the image of Maitreya Buddha and associate it with Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Ksitigarbha means earth treasury. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is one who masters the treasury of the mind, the place that contains all good and bad tendencies a human being can have. When we see that each of us has a mind ground like the planet Earth, it becomes very easy to practice generosity and tolerance. Deep within the earth are many kinds of ores. If extracted effectively, they enrich a nation. Some Middle Eastern countries are rich because they have much oil. Some other countries are rich because of uranium. Some have copper or silver or gold or and many other minerals of high economic value that can help a nation become an economic power. The Buddha said in the sutras that the treasury of the human mind ground also contains many ores. The ore of compassion, the ore of wisdom, the ore of peace and joy, the ore of happiness, the ore of diligence, the ore of non-self, the ore of altruism, the ore of generosity, the ore of offerings, and hundreds of thousands of other ores with value and meaning for life. The question is whether we know how to extract and use those ores. On the other hand, the earth is also the place that contains the filthiest things. All kinds of waste such as garbage, excrement, and corpses are buried in the ground. Many animals carrying infectious diseases such as H5N1 that were killed and burned in mass disposals were also buried in the earth. Therefore, the soil becomes polluted and water sources become contaminated. Some substances, after soaking into the earth for a time, are purified to a relative degree. But there are also substances that cannot decompose, such as rubber, plastic bags, and other plastic waste. This leads to severe pollution of the soil environment. Our mind ground is the same. We must elevate it so that it can purify the afflictions, adverse conditions, and trials that come to us. Especially with those close to us, even if they unintentionally or intentionally bring us pain, we still need to be generous, forgive, and let it pass. Do not be stubborn, swearing bitterly and cursing venomously, causing grudges to remain endlessly connected. Vietnamese folk culture has a saying, "One suspicion is worth 3 blows." Being struck once hurts and then passes. Even if there is swelling and pain, there is medicine to treat it. But suspicion, you never know when it will strike, whether it will hurt or not. So the mind is always fluttering, fearful, and doubtful, and from there loses calm. A person whose mind is not peaceful has no happiness and no joy. Therefore, we must have tolerance. Do not fear petty people. Do not fear cruel people. Do not fear the mean and vulgar. Each person has the capacity to transform when there is a catalyst, a suitable environment, and favorable conditions. Believing this, we should continue to nurture hope and help them turn back toward goodness, becoming people who benefit the community and society. That is the attitude of tolerance. A tolerant person is usually very confident. They do not think diversity is an obstacle. They think diversity is richness, giving us the conditions to learn what we do not yet know. Thanks to that, they gather many good and valuable things and achieve success in life. Teaching 13, the path of awakening. The 13th teaching, the greatest deficiency in a human life is lack of understanding. This is an aspect that monastics need to emphasize strongly. The opposite of lack of understanding is the path of awakening. Lay Buddhists also need to learn the Dharma so that each person becomes a torch of Buddhist thought through their own practical actions. In modern times, monastics also must be different from the past. Besides dedicating themselves to spiritual cultivation, they must also engage in social charity activities. These two factors are like the dual cultivation of merit and wisdom that every disciple of the Buddha must practice. In the 13th aphorism, the deficiency defined here is a lack of knowledge that leaves one forever unlearned. The need for learning and the path of ethics and spirituality are limitless. The diameter of learning is endless. The boundaries of learning are without limit. Only when we break through ignorance can the entire process of learning be considered to have a stopping point. Lack of understanding is like our eyes being closed, their function lost. Buddhism calls lack of understanding ignorance. Ignorance is a technical term defined as a lack of knowledge about cause and effect. When we live using methods of thinking such as analogy, induction, deduction, and synthesis on a subjective or objective basis, if we separate them from the operating law of the universe, which is cause and effect with conditions as the connecting link, then all assumptions are regarded as a form of deficient understanding. According to this basic definition, it is not necessarily true that scientists, scholars, geniuses, and talented people in every field, even those who have contributed greatly to the development of human thought, are free from deficient understanding. The first astronaut to set foot on the moon in the space exploration program decades ago performed his first act upon stepping onto the moon by making the sign of the cross to thank God for keeping him alive. As an astrophysicist, it is clear that he knew the universe did not originate from any single first cause, even if that cause is labeled God under many different names. Yet ideas about the creation of the universe had been installed in his mind like a chip when he was small. As he grew up, scientific knowledge was still not strong enough to erase that chip. Therefore, the view that God loves, bestows life, and grants all things remained an obsession. Such knowledge is still considered deficient understanding. The concept of deficient understanding in Buddhism is different from the term used in sociology. In sociology, understanding means being flexible and clever in social interactions between oneself and others in order to achieve satisfaction. In economic transactions, cleverness means how to secure many contracts with high profit value. Winning the customer's favor is also considered an art achieved through understanding. Understanding the law of supply and demand, customer psychology, investment timing, and the right moment to offer products so that work proceeds smoothly and yields high profit. In the 14 aphorisms, deficient understanding means a lack of awakening wisdom, ways of perceiving, thinking, and solving problems that are not grounded in cause and effect. So what are cause and effect according to Buddhism? Folk sayings often say, plant melons and you get melons, plant beans and you get beans. This understanding of cause and effect can be called flat cause and effect. It is completely different from the practical understanding of cause and effect, which we may temporarily call spatial geometric cause and effect. Let us borrow two mathematical concepts to describe it more easily. At the elementary level and below, knowledge of plane geometry is considered truth, like a law. But from secondary school onward, the nature of how the universe operates is understood not as flat, but as multidimensional, even n-dimensional. Cause and effect are also influenced by conditions that function as enabling factors. Therefore, what are called causes planted in the past, in previous lives, in the past several decades, even yesterday, and the results of the future, all must pass through the time dimension of the present under many different influences. So there are times when you plant melons but do not get melons, and plant beans but do not get beans. In Vietnam, at the end of 2007, the North suffered a period of extreme cold with harsh winds that caused crop damage reaching tens of billions of dollars. All farmers in that season suffered failure. So planting rice, vegetables, roots, and fruit yielded almost nothing and brought only losses. Thus, in flat cause and effect, when we say plant rice and you get rice, plant beans and you get beans, we must understand that although the nature of cause and effect may correspond, it does not mean they correspond in a directly proportional quantity. Therefore, spatial geometric cause and effect is the law for resolving problems in society. When we sow negative and harmful seeds, it does not mean we will necessarily receive future results exactly matching what we sowed. The process of transforming karma, replacing behaviors, mastering emotions, and mastering perception leads to changes in a person's destiny. In this situation, cause and effect is a combined total of bad and good seeds. Bad in the past and good in the present interact according to a compensatory principle, and the stronger one dominates. Seeds that have been planted, if there are no counterforces, positive or negative, will bear fruit at a certain time with the result we would expect. Yet because there are influences, the result is sometimes not identical to the original cause that was planted. Therefore, the factor of conditions is the decisive data for success in the process of investing in cause and effect. When we understand cause and effect as interactive, there is no such thing as a predestined fate governed by fixed rules of fortune that people often think are tied to the numbers of one's year, month, day, and hour of birth, or the year, month, day, and hour of investing in a project or opening a business. At that point, we possess knowledge that can be called wisdom knowledge of cause and effect. This helps us escape the limits of deficient understanding that causes human beings to sink deeply into superstition. Before coming to the United States, we had the opportunity to give Dharma talks in 10 provinces and cities in northern Vietnam. Each talk had 2 parts, the main topic and a question and answer session. The impression we drew was that in no temple did the public fail to ask about burning votive paper offerings and about methods of worship. Too many elements of polytheism had strongly influenced northern temples. In the north, over the past 20 years, Buddhism has only begun to revive. Deficient understanding of cause and effect became a factor in people's awareness. At the same time, superstition became very severe. Many temples worship many deities, such as the Supreme God, the Southern Registrar and Northern Registrar, the Nine Heavens Mysterious Maiden, Guan Gong, Mother of Birth and Mother of Protection, even on the main altar, not merely in lay households. Southern Buddhist temples are completely different. Aside from a small number of temples whose founders previously followed polytheistic beliefs before converting to Buddhism, more than 90% do not worship in that way. Today, devout Buddhists in the South also no longer worship according to polytheistic beliefs. They understand clearly that cause and effect determines all human happiness and suffering, not God or various deities with assigned functions as people once believed. This type of cause and effect knowledge, structured like spatial geometry, helps free us from the notion of predestined fate, an obsession that leads people more toward religion. In the long discourses, the Buddha taught that if everything we have in the present is explained as originating from the past, then it will be difficult for people to arouse the intention to strive for ethical living in the present in order to renew themselves. Chinese patriarchs taught, if you want to know the person of past lives, look at what is received in this life. If you want to know the result of future lives, look at what is being done in this life. If you want to know the causes of your life in the past, look at what you are receiving today. And if you want to see what your future will be like, look at what you are doing in the present. Here we may temporarily call this flat cause and effect. It functions like an ethical proclamation with a catalytic effect, pushing people into the orbit of ethical living, so that they have standards in the present and in the future, and thus experience peace and happiness. But if we treat that as a standard, as a law that must inevitably unfold in exactly that way, then it completely contradicts the Buddha's statement in the long discourses. There are things that belong to present causes, yet people deliberately explain them as the past. During the Vesak season, from May 14th to May 17th, 2008, two very heartbreaking events occurred. On May 2nd, 2008, Cyclone Nargis struck Myanmar and caused the deaths of more than 150,000 people, with crop losses beyond calculation. 10 days later, on May 12th, an earthquake in Sichuan province, China, took the lives of more than 80,000 people. We had the chance to speak with many people while teaching in Hanoi. Some commented, Myanmar and China are paying back karma. A very high-ranking official said, Myanmar is paying back karma because it forced monks over the past year, causing very painful scenes. But that is an observation based on flat cause and effect, and it is not very accurate. The Myanmar government oppressed the monks, but did the people of Myanmar oppress them? If the government created the harm, yet the people must suffer such consequences, then that is not karmic cause and effect. If the government created it, then they should bear the result in their own lives through instability and hardship. Yet here the victims were innocent civilians. China is the same. The families of more than 80,000 victims had to live under the open sky, with no shelter and nowhere to rely on. Any explanation that says all hardships and dead ends we face are simply results from the past is not correct. In this situation, we can see that even now, astronomical and meteorological forecasting systems remain limited. No one dares to guarantee that they can precisely predict earthquakes, even ordinary storms. After the earthquake occurred, scientists in China offered a sociological statistic. In the areas where the earthquake happened, people observed signs of animals moving away from their habitats to other places. They concluded that the senses of touch and smell in these animals are more refined than in humans. So with underground changes that humans cannot yet perceive, the animals already know. Based on that, they proposed a new lesson with value comparable to astronomy. In Vietnamese folk experience, people have long observed that if many ant nests beneath a tree begin climbing up the trunk, then within about 3 days there may be flooding in that area. Because these animals, especially ants, have very sensitive touch and smell, they detect it first. Thanks to that, people can avoid losses in seasonal farming investments. All of these relate to the law of cause and effect in the universe. It is intimately connected with cause, effect, and human blessings. Therefore, we must assign responsibility to the excessive exploitation of the environment, nature, and ecology in a short period of time, so that they cannot regenerate new resources to serve human beings. The result is disturbances such as earthquakes, tsunamis, and floods, which scientists have explained. This is the primary cause leading to the loss of human life. If we correct this aspect, we can minimize natural disasters as much as possible. Some people explain it this way. In the past, people in those countries created many evil and bad deeds, so their nations encountered natural disasters. Then how can we explain the earthquake in South Asia and Southeast Asia a few years earlier, when at that time 2 Buddhist countries, Sri Lanka and Thailand, had death tolls similar to Muslim countries? How should we explain that? Are those people all bad? Not necessarily. Therefore, flat cause and effect can only explain part of the situation. It has more value for moral encouragement and education than for solving practical problems, as the earlier section has raised for us. Meanwhile, the understanding of cause and effect in the spirit of what the Buddha taught in the long discourses, which we may temporarily call spatial geometric cause and effect, is a highly dynamic type of cause and effect. Therefore, we are not allowed to surrender to fate. When we know that if we create additional positive conditions within the structure of cause and effect in our ethical life, then the seeds of the past can be corrected and overcome, and we can become peaceful and happy. A second definition in the Pali Canon of deficient understanding is a mode of perception and a way of living that does not accord with the principles of impermanence and non-self. Many scientists and intellectuals fall into the state of worldly cleverness and argumentative skill, which is also one of the 8 obstructions. On that basis, they are still classified as deficient in understanding from the perspective of awakening wisdom. We see that the Pali term for non-self is anatta. If translated closely according to the Chinese meaning, it should not be rendered as no self, but as not self, because the prefix a placed before a noun means not. It functions to exclude what follows. If it is translated as no self, meaning there is no self, then it can be misunderstood as denying the soul. In reality, Buddhism still maintains that there is a form of rebirth after a person dies, and death is not the final period. Whether we speak of a soul or rebirth, it is only a transitional process of consciousness that contains many seeds of cause and effect from the past and present. Therefore, the concept of no self, used by Chinese translators, does not correctly correspond to the term the Buddha used in the sutra, which is not self, anatta. Based on this not self, we still see that there is an I. That I is formed by the physical body with 4 principles: solidity, liquidity, heat, and motion. And the realm of consciousness has 4 principles: the principle of emotion, the principle of perception, the principle of thought, and the principle of cognition. Both sets of principles, material and mental, create what we call the self. Yet the Buddha affirmed them as not self, meaning not me. Not self does not deny that there is a self. Not me is different from does not exist. Those two are not the same. For example, if we say, this rose is not an orchid or a chrysanthemum, we are not saying the rose does not exist. There is no rose is completely different. In our hand, we are still holding the rose. We cannot deny its reality as non-existent. We only say that it does not belong to something else. When analyzing the teaching of dependent origination, the Buddha said that whatever is formed by many factors and conditions, what modern physics calls atoms and molecules, has vast space between its components. It is also operated and constituted by other elements. Therefore, it is not truly itself. It borrows from other things to assemble and form what appears as a single entity. The doctrine of not-self gives us a new understanding. Do not idolize this body as God. Materialism and the worship of matter have promoted relying on the body in order to become wealthy. Because people glorify the body too much, they suffer consequences, leading to emotional clinging and attachment to the physical form. Therefore, whenever the body becomes ill, people experience a major crisis. When the body faces death, people do not want to acknowledge it, and they are not ready to wave goodbye to it. Other consequences of injuring the body can be seen throughout human history. Equating the entire mass of our feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and cognitions with me also makes human beings suffer more. Such people are often very sensitive. Whenever others make remarks, exchange words, or call our name given by our parents, we tend to equate the label with ourselves, and suffering and pain begin to arise. Meanwhile, not-self wisdom teaches us a new way of responding. Whatever is good, we take it as a guiding principle to strive forward. Whatever is criticism, blame, slander, or distortion, we should think, this is not me. I am not dependent on these things. Then it has no basis to cling. Suffering and pain have two aspects. Suffering is psychological. Pain is physical. Suffering and pain have only two bases to cling to, either the body or the mind. The body includes illness or biological deterioration that makes us age and lose beauty, making us discouraged and disappointed, easily falling into confusion and distress. When we have not self-knowledge, we do not equate those things with ourselves, yet we also do not deny them. They still exist, so we feel pain. They exist, so we must care for the body, dress well, interact, and socialize. We cannot deny these realities. But the knowledge of not identifying them as me helps us shed suffering and pain very easily, without needing painkillers, yet still with effect. Thus, knowledge of not-self is true understanding. Whoever lacks not-self knowledge is still considered to be living in circles and in deficient understanding. As for impermanence, we see it unfolding every day, every hour. The law of time has three markers: past, present, and future. Time is always a flowing stream with no stopping point. The future continually becomes the present and then becomes the past. In this way, it continues to pass through a human life and circulate from one life to the next. When we recognize the process of impermanence, we will see the law of not-self applied to the physical body and the mind, and human pain is reduced. Because we know it is impermanent, we must acknowledge it and accept it as reality. In recent years, the phenomenon of psychic mediums in Vietnam has become very prominent. Within the country, there are roughly around 100 well-known mediums. The most famous is Ms. Phan Thi Bich Hang, and more recently Ms. Nguyen Thi Phuong in Ham Rome, Ton Hoa. They are said to have achievements in searching for and locating missing remains in thousands of cases. This affirms that a state after death exists. In the search for remains, people have placed heavy emphasis on creating a reunion between the living and the dead, but they have not paid attention to the spiritual perspective taught in Buddhism, which is how to help the spirit let go of suffering in the form of a hungry ghost and depart onward. Sometimes, even after the remains are found, the suffering continues and becomes even greater. A question is raised: why are there many spirits who have been dead for decades and still have not been liberated? The Ksitigarbha Sutra teaches that after 7 weeks of post-death rites, the process of rebirth should be completed. Or according to Theravada Buddhism, after a human being or an animal discards the body of the 5 aggregates, it is reborn into a realm corresponding to karmic causes and conditions, and to a family in which it will later be born as a child. The answer is very simple. Among the realms of rebirth taught by the Buddha, there is the realm of hungry ghosts. Hungry ghosts are not a realm beneath the ground that folk tradition calls the underworld. The needs of social life do not exist for hungry ghosts because they no longer have a physical body. They no longer have a mouth to chew, a throat to swallow, a stomach to hold, or a circulatory and digestive system to create the process of living as when they were human. Because of the belief in an underworld, many people fall into superstition, burning paper offerings to provide for relatives. Most spirits, while alive, did not believe that after death there is another life, especially materialists, who can easily fall into wandering and confusion after death. They have no place to cling and no place to go, so they resist death and do not want to accept it as truth. The principle of impermanence teaches spirits that acknowledging the year, month, day, and hour when death occurred is not only a formal declaration on paper, but also reality. Only when the knowledge of acceptance arises can they be reborn. If they cling and do not accept the truth, then even though consciousness has left the physical body, it still tends to cling to the place where death occurred, the house, the grave site, the ancestral temple, the place where the remains are kept, and so on. The laws of impermanence and not-self always operate through space and time. Knowledge of cause and effect requires 2 accompanying knowledges, not-self and impermanence. Only then can the process of rebirth occur in an instant. After death, we follow karma, and karma becomes the driving force that propels us into rebirth. For those who have mastered life and death, meaning they are on the path of realization and have realized it, rebirth follows their vow. If they vow where they will go after death, they will be present there. Understanding not self and impermanence frees people from superstition about the spirit world, God, deities, and fate. Each person becomes the master of their own destiny and life. That kind of knowledge brings human beings a great deal of happiness. Here it is called a great deficiency, yet that still feels somewhat mild. It should rather be stated as, the greatest suffering of human life is deficient understanding, lack of understanding of cause and effect, lack of understanding of impermanence and not self. The word deficiency is still not enough to describe how severe such lack truly is. For example, a person who is poor below the average level still has a bowl of rice and basic clothing. In India, a person may need only about 7,000 Vietnamese dong a day to live well. They buy 1 kilogram of flour to make bread and eat it for a whole week. On the second day, if they have 5,000 dong, they save it to buy milk. With only that, they can get through hardship. Therefore, using the word deficiency is still not enough to express what the Buddha wanted to say: how much suffering, pain, and dead ends can come to human life and other beings due to deficient understanding of cause and effect. However, whether we call it deficient or a deficiency, we can still see that the loss is enormous and cannot be taken lightly. Teaching 14. Generosity brings peace and joy. The 14th teaching. The greatest consolation in a human life is knowing how to give. The bridge of giving helps us establish love, and on that basis it creates closeness. Social and community relationships also develop beautifully from there. Many people are surprised and ask, why are we able to enter large prisons such as K.20 with more than 2,000 inmates serving criminal sentences from 5 to 20 years, or drug rehabilitation centers, prostitution rehabilitation centers, and many social welfare centers such as homes for the elderly, centers for people with disabilities, and institutions for juvenile offenders? The answer is, we follow the Buddha's teachings in the 4 means of embracing and the 6 perfections, and giving is the foremost factor. This factor is considered a very dynamic method of engaged Buddhism, yet few people pay attention to it, and sometimes they even look down on it. Some places even use discriminatory language. Giving is used to mean a high-status person donating to someone of lower status who is poor and needy, while offering is used to indicate a very respectful attitude when presenting something to those regarded as higher than oneself, at least in terms of ethics and spirituality. Buddhists often use the word offering for monks and the word giving for people in the community and society. In fact, in Pali and Sanskrit there is only one word, dana, to refer to both giving and offerings. The Chinese liked complexity, so they translated it into 2 terms that imply discrimination, which is completely taboo in the Buddhist principle of equality. The attitude at the moment of giving, meaning sharing or donating one's property to others, is a way of applying and practicing the doctrine of not self. Because when we understand that I is not truly I, then everything is only functional, only a tool for a moment, for a few decades within one lifetime. Therefore, we should perform noble acts to share and reduce the suffering and pain in the world. From there arises an accompanying understanding, non-ownership. Then we can give easily with happiness, in order to complete all the moral virtues we need within ourselves. Therefore, if one does not understand the doctrine of not self, it is very difficult to give or to make offerings. The issue is that we should not create discrimination among ourselves. Northern Vietnamese language places heavy emphasis on emotion. For example, when a Buddhist layperson asks a monk to do something, they often use very humble phrases such as, "I ask you to bestow charity upon me," or "I beg for merit." People use words influenced by monarchy, such as respectfully report, humbly request, and similar forms. Acting in this way can diminish the ethical meaning of social relationships within the method of giving that the Buddha taught in the sutras. From an ethical perspective, the term offering seems even less suitable than giving, because offering is a mispronounced reading derived from the idea of providing and nourishing. Providing here refers merely to material supply to nourish the physical body. Meanwhile, giving is a verb that indicates distributing equally, without discrimination. Its ethical meaning in society is much higher than the term offering. Within giving, there is already the aspect of providing and nourishing materially. Here we do not demand that those who receive from us must later repay us with proper gratitude. People often say, "Lend me now, and in the future I will repay you with more." Or when we borrow from a bank, we must pay interest. In that way, the social meaning is lost and human warmth disappears. Therefore, when one engages in society but removes the charitable element, one will not succeed. The programs we organize when entering rehabilitation centers and prisons always include 3 parts. The first is charity. Each gift is worth about 50,000 to 75,000 dong, which is not much compared to what some of them once had before going to prison. But once they are in prison, their parents may be angry. Some families do not even visit, thinking they have finally thrown off the burden of an unfilial, delinquent child. Many wives or husbands, when their spouse goes to prison, look for a new lover. In the underworld of gangs, when there is money, everyone responds at once. When the money is gone, the boss disappears, and they see how impermanent and fleeting human relationships truly are. At that point, they reflect on what they once called happiness, using tricks to evade the law and become rich on the blood, suffering, and pain of society. That was only an illusion, arising like a chemical reaction in the brain. It was not the inner happiness that Buddhism teaches. From there, they begin to understand themselves more deeply. For that very reason, when Buddhist principles are introduced, they receive them very warmly, even more enthusiastically than many lay practice groups. That is what I have personally felt over several years of participating here, beginning with generosity as the leading approach. The second part is cultural performance. In Vietnamese prisons, there are no newspapers to read, no magazines to browse, and no television to enjoy. Apart from the main 8 hours of labor each day, when they return they only sit and chat until bedtime. Life inside is extremely monotonous and profoundly painful. So when we bring in a professional performance program and invite well-known singers to serve in charitable visits, they feel immense joy. The program also includes guidance in Dharma songs. We invite Buddhist musicians to teach them to sing these Dharma songs. Young monks and nuns sing simple but beautiful songs together with them. Much of the religious boundary fades, leaving mainly the practice of ethical living. This, to some extent, helps erase the lines of religious difference. Inside there are followers of many religions, people with no religion, and people who follow communism as well, every kind of background. It is a shadow side of human society. These Dharma songs help them absorb the message more deeply, and gradually they begin to live in a way similar to people in a monastery. We often use a wordplay, two and two, a monastery and a prison, which differ only by a tonal mark. We define that tonal mark as greed, anger, and ignorance pressing a person down. Now one only needs to remove that tonal mark, and the prison becomes a monastery. The 3-month Rains retreat for monastics is an opportunity to recharge spiritual energy after 9 months of active Buddhist service, so that the energy is not depleted but becomes even more abundant. Similarly, inmates should make use of their time in prison to practice moral training. They should not think they are here only to pay back the results of their bad actions. When they think this way, guilt decreases. Turning towards spiritual life, they become very new people. Then, after completing their sentence, they will no longer be those who live a drifting life of indulgence and play. Mr. Feng Van Yen was the lieutenant colonel and chief warden of the prison. On May 31, 2008, we also invited the director of the Provincial Audiovisual News Agency in the southern provinces and the standing committee of VTV1 to attend. In an interview, Mr. Yen said that in more than 10 years of doing this work, the past roughly 1.5 years had been the lightest period he had ever felt. Since the program, Turning Back is the Shore, was introduced, the inmates were trained in the attitude of doing voluntary service. Instead of thinking they were doing forced labor to repay crimes they had committed, they now thought they were doing volunteer service. So they willingly volunteered and even competed for the chance to do it. When someone was sick and could not work, others volunteered to do it for them. Doing service with a joyful heart creates great merit, and wrongdoing diminishes more quickly than the ordinary time frame. Another change was that the phenomenon of green eagles, black eagles, red eagles, and similar prison hierarchies no longer existed, because people began to think this was a place for cultivating ethics, not a place for punishing one another as in gang life. Therefore, rehabilitation became much more effective. This is something precious that we said in our interview on VTV1. If the authorities boldly introduced meditation, the practice of chanting the Buddha's name, and Buddhist ethics into prisons, Vietnamese society would reduce the number of prisons. Second, those who unfortunately enter prison would have an opportunity to become good people. The sooner one dares to do it, the more society reduces suffering. Of course, such a policy is difficult to implement. So first we must proceed through the charitable path. Giving is not simply consolation, because consolation is only the establishment of closeness and affection. Buddhist giving has three dimensions: material giving, dharma giving, and fearlessness giving. Material giving comes first. But if there is only material giving and no dharma giving, charitable activities will not achieve high effectiveness. This is what the Medicine Buddha stated in his 11th vow. The 11th vow says, "To those who are hungry, I give food to eat. To those who are thirsty, I give water to drink. To those who are cold, I give clothing to wear. After that, I bestow the wondrous taste of the Dharma." Thus, we see that material giving and Dharma giving always go together. Yet unfortunately, for many years, lay Buddhists and even monks and nuns doing charitable work have focused only on material giving and have not emphasized Dharma giving. Material giving is like drops of water sprinkled in a desert, each drop evaporating and leaving no real absorption. Human suffering due to natural disasters, if it does not happen here, happens somewhere else. We will never have enough strength to cover all of it. But human-made suffering, created by people themselves through lack of understanding of cause and effect, not self, and impermanence, through the absence of Buddhist awakening wisdom, remains unchanged. Eat breakfast, and by evening one can be hungry again. Eat today, and tomorrow hunger returns. But when one understands the Dharma, material poverty is no longer an obsession that dominates the mind. One can still live happily and peacefully. Therefore, wherever we go to do charity, we set a condition that we must be allowed to give Dharma talks, and these centers always accept it. In addition to the talks, we also made the Dhammapada in the form of small cards. The front has a Buddha image, and the back has a Buddhist saying. The 423 verses of the Dhammapada were written on 423 cards. We gave each person a string of beads and one Dhammapada verse, and we asked them to pass the verses hand to hand. We also established a Buddhist bookcase on cause and effect, karmic retribution, rebirth, Buddhist stories, and books on learning how to be a good person, and we asked them to read these books. At first, many people had little formal education and found reading difficult. We asked those who could read to read aloud to those who could not. In other centers, we also built a small library. This is called Dharma giving, and this is the true foundation that helps them in the long term. Our Buddhism, with the Buddha's teachings, is very deep in this respect. Sadly, we have not carried it through thoroughly. When we practice correctly both material giving and Dharma giving, the result that the recipient attains is fearlessness, meaning not being afraid. A person who has knowledge of the Dharma is not afraid. Only those who lack knowledge of cause and effect are afraid. Afraid of being crushed by life, harmed, pressured, or entangled in gossip and slander. Afraid, so they must do this or that, chasing life like being swept by the wind, not daring to walk with their own integrity, not daring to say what must be said, not daring to do what must be done, not daring to express the character and ethics the Buddha taught. Therefore, Dharma knowledge is a very important source of spiritual energy that gives us the attitude of fearlessness. A person who lives ethically is not afraid. Only when we live against our conscience do we become afraid. The most important and greatest fear in human life is fear of death. But if we understand not self, we no longer fear death. This body is only a means used for a few decades. What is there to be sad about, to be in pain about, to fear? Buddhist knowledge helps erase fear in human life. In society, any individual who lacks giving will find it hard to succeed. Beyond consolation, giving is also an ethical and spiritual factor that helps rebuild society in many different angles and situations. Moreover, through the method of giving, we can bring the Dharma into society using language that is not explicitly Buddhist. With such spirit and content, we can successfully carry out what the Buddha taught. This is the very heart of Buddhism's engaged path in the world. With this method of engagement, we firmly believe that not only lay practitioners, but also monastics, can achieve success. Therefore, when doing charity, we should try to attach printed or photocopied Buddha sayings to each gift package. The food in the package may be finished, but the Buddha's words can remain with them. That becomes an ethical foundation that helps them overcome difficulties and challenges and rise up in life. Mass media such as television, radio, newspapers, and the internet are often channels for the well-off. People living in rural areas do not really have these means. This is not only true for rural Vietnam. Rural areas in other poor countries face a similar situation. So when we give them small Buddha images accompanied by a Buddha saying, even Christians like them, and Muslims are also drawn to them. The first time we brought 2,500 strings of prayer beads into the prison, they competed and grabbed for them, afraid there would not be enough for themselves, even though the number of inmates was only 2,000. Each time after that, over the last 5 visits, we brought more than 2,000 strings of beads, and they were still all taken. They received the Buddha images with deep respect. This shows that if we follow the method the Buddha taught, combining material giving with spiritual giving to create fearlessness, an ethical way of living, joy, and peace, then our engaged actions will produce much higher results.